Next item on the
Thank you.
agenda is regular business 4F. Discussion potential action to authorize change order number 1 to contract 2014-16 La Paloma Subdivision Street Improvements Phase 1 in the amount of $23,178.50.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council Members, Yasmina Arellano, Public Works Director. Skip Rowley issued
Gordon messed it up.
phase one of the La Paloma improvement projects to permit construction. Phase 1 project includes providing the residents that live in La Paloma subdivision with complete offsite improvements in their immediate access areas such as Colimbo, Honza, Valenzuela, Maica, Milano. Those are the streets where the existing residents access. We have some items within the contract that need to be amended. And well, the first, I'm sure you've read the report, so I'm just going to go over the items.
Yeah.
The first one was a storm drain inlet placement that was in conflict with the gas line. As you can see in the first picture, that was the area to the right of the picture was the original area for the catch basin. Unfortunately, there was a conflict there with the gas line, so it was relocated to the left of the picture. So the second picture shows the catch basin installed. That catch basin is on Colimbo, near the intersection with Milan.
That costs us $4,000.
The second item has to do with 2 catch basins in the area of Calle de Valenzuela. This area, the first picture, which is the inlet to the north, there was an area that was poorly paved. There was a hole after they ground that they discovered, and ponding water on both sides, on the north and on the south side, led to the concrete popping up on both sides of the catch basin. So on the south side of the basin, there was some area that had to be replaced as a curb and gutter. On the north side, it was a little larger area, as well as paving there was a rectangular area that needed to be subdivided and replaced.
And the amount is within the contingency of the contract, right? So.
That is correct.
Okay.
We're still within the 15% contingency.
Okay.
There are other areas such as the manhole rims and valve covers that were not, they were paved over. Typically, this is a typical construction item. They come, they pave, and then when they do the final lift, they come back, they mark
They
those
do
areas,
all
they
that.
come back, they dig them up, they raise them, they put the concrete rings. But in this case, unfortunately, since the developer
never came
abandoned this
back.
project, they never came back. So this areas were not identified. Another area right here that was discovered with the grind, this was a more.
Once it was ground, they
shallow.
found it.
Right. The other
Okay.
ones were deeper, this is a more shallow area.
I would make a motion to approve the change order number 1 to contract 2014-16 La Paloma subdivision, the amount of $23,178.50.
I second that motion. That's what the bonding money is for, is to go in and to make these issues right. Right.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 4G, discussion potential action regarding the establishment of public meeting schedule for the fiscal year 2015-16 City of Raleigh budget process.
Mayor,
City
now-
Manager? Yeah.
Yes. The staff and I put together a proposed schedule for the upcoming 2015-16 budget process. We used last year's approach as one way to schedule the various meetings. Tonight is the mid-year budget review. And then next up would be a strategic planning session, a general fund workshop, a subsequent workshop that takes in all of our special enterprise funds, and then overall budget adoption. We do aim to utilize normal meeting dates for the regular meeting in March, as well as budget adoption in May. If the council wishes to structure it a different way, we're certainly open to your scheduling interests.
Yeah, the dates look okay so far. I don't know.
I don't have any problem with that date so far.
We don't have any for April.
Yeah.
We just have them.
Yeah, they hadn't chosen date for April, so those are open.
Are there
open, so,
Any suggestions with respect to dates, or we'll keep those open for the time being?
yeah.
I think just keep them open.
Those, yeah, just my only individual input would be if we're aiming for 2 special meetings in April, if there's any opportunity to consider moving one of those, the Enterprise Special Funds Workshop number 2, potentially to early May, being that I see May, we have 1 regular meeting, overall budget adoption. That might help me avoid a potential conflict in the month of
I'm
April.
okay with that.
And we could look at it towards the end of March to see how the
No
schedule
problem.
is.
So you don't want to give dates tonight?
I would think that, are we all prepared to give dates tonight?
I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some further consideration. I think if we look at the first couple of dates, which are February 3rd and March 3rd, we can work with those, but let's revisit the item and we'll come up with some better dates. So that's the direction you needed on that? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 4H, discussion potential action regarding date for the Ralph M. Brown Act training. I know we've discussed it several times. We haven't set a date, but considering we have several other things too, is there a proposed date that the council would like to visit this item on?
IID has asked Frank Oswalt and I to give ethics and sexual harassment training at the IID boardroom, and we mentioned it to IID that you wanted some training, and they've invited you to come. And it's tentatively set for March 3rd, 8 to 12. I can confirm that with IID. We're just waiting to make sure the boardroom was available. But it'd be a good way for the city of Brawley to get whatever training you want for no cost. Last year when we did it, a lot of city officials from El Centro showed up.
It's a good point, thank you. So and that would be a date that we have a strategic planning session, so it would
6
be,
p.m.
it would be,
What date is that?
March 3rd,
March 3rd.
and that's a Tuesday.
What time?
It's tentative 8 to noon.
That may work, I mean,
That
We
may
have
work.
that way we can get it done and
And we do have a meeting that day, so that may work for
might be
us.
okay.
And what I will do is I'll confirm it with IID and send you all an email, and it's one of those things that you're welcome to show up, and if you don't, you don't.
Right.
That'll work.
Because I have to be there.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on this item?
Nope.
Next item on the agenda is 5 departmental reports. 5A, Ruby Walla, Finance Director, regarding 2014-2015 mid-year budget review.
Is that free?
I think so. The city will pay.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, for the Walla Finance Director. Can you hear me?
We can.
Barely.
Who's that singing?
That's a good thing.
Who's that
Or-
singing?
Where-
That Mr. Couchman singing?
Yes, you're good.
Okay.
There's multiple slides on here, and not to rush you, Ruby, but I know we've reviewed the information,
Yes.
Okay.
so
Show me
we can
the
move
money.
forward.
Like Mayor Nava said, you've all reviewed them. It's just to give you an overview, just where we are midpoint, actual versus projected, similar format as previous years when we presented mid-year review budget. Again, this is an overall picture of the approved budget, what was approved by council in May of 2014 for 14-15. And then like we footnoted there, basically the general fund reserve use that was anticipated in that approved budget, which was the installment payment, capital project for fire station number 1, and some JPIA contributions. And if you have any questions along the way, just feel free to ask any more details needed. Overall budget, revenues at 27% and expenditures at 34%, and this is all funds. The revenue summary, basically what we projected, or currently now, if we look at this time last year, we are actually down $2.4 million in revenues, and that's overall budget. And this is just comparison on actual, which in that comprises national beef impacts, which have been accounted for in the current budget. Those fluctuations, we do have water conservation measures that have taken into effect, and it could be impacted as well as any special revenue funding that we receive, if it's grant revenue or any contributions that we receive just based on project activity. Again, so it's footnoted there, impacts, of course, national beef, utility user tax for the general fund, and then water and sewer fund. Grant funding, we had the transit station funding that was in there, and it was sitting in there, and that was cash on hand, and then reimbursement and so forth. The timing of our ROPS funding, and then, of course, the street sweeper that came, mid-year as well, and that is street sweeper revenue basically to our maintenance fund. And it was just diverted revenues from our Measure D funds, Fund 215, that were getting allocated into our maintenance fund for maintaining sweepers, and that was a significant expense to Measure D, but a significant revenue source to our maintenance fund. So that's an impact as well that affect those revenue numbers. Other budget adjustments that we've gone through, and our personnel director as well, is a Affordable Care Act. We had a purchase of a vehicle for parks, that's come to council. National beef projections, the overall, just looking at it, we are pretty much, and you'll see in the other slides, we are streamlining and projections are pretty on. With the fluctuation maybe in the water fund, you'll see is down about 2%, which that has to do, what we could relate to is water conservation efforts that have been taken into place. General fund overall, we're at 32% in revenues received, and expenditures were at 43%. And that has to do with the low revenue stream. At this point in the year, it all has to do with timing of when we receive funds. Some come later or after the mid-year point. Again, this is just review and kind of just our normal practices, just put them out there what department head levels do as far as reviewing their own budgets, doing internal budget adjustments. We actively do those between finance and other departments, working as POs are turned in, and aggressively as we do the mid-year review as well.
Sorry to interrupt, Ruby. Rosanna, could you please have staff look at that microphone? It's been troublesome for us for the past several meetings, and it just hasn't been fixed, so I'm sorry.
And then here's, we're going to go over some of the major funds, special revenue funds, and of course our enterprise funds, the gas tax, Fund 211. We're at 66% and 36% in expenditures, 66% basically. We're trending with gas tax receipts at 58%. The 66% is the contribution from Allied Waste that we receive for the road maintenance fund. Measure D, Fund 215, we're at 24%. And that's attributed to the way we've structured our bond payments. And if you recall, we had a shortfall with our bond payment that we worked out that recently on, they were structuring the allocations with BOE. So the timing of those funds are going to be, they're going to be varied this year in the timing of it. So basically, we won't see the full picture until the end of the fiscal year. Street funds projects, of course, were budgeted this fiscal year for $4 million with our Measure D bond money. And for Fund 501, as you see here, we're at 48% from budgeted, approved budget, and expenditures were at 26%. Then this is additional water fund information. Information pretty much that we're on our second year of our water fund loan payment that we received from the wastewater fund, and this is what we structured into last fiscal year budget, is start a repayment plan, which is approximately $102,000 a year.
For 15 years.
Yes.
Yeah, 15 years. Go ahead.
And then here you have the wastewater fund, 51% in revenues and 39% at expenditure. Solid waste, trending fairly. Airport fund, doing significantly better. Talking with city manager, you would attribute it to occupancy and rental spaces and so forth. And then RDA, continued RDA, we're pretty much completing our ROPS semi-annually, preparing them. You approved the one tonight for 1516A, which is scheduled to go before our oversight board next week for their approval, and then in order to meet the March 3rd, 2015 deadline. And then the next steps will be the long-range property management plan, which last time we updated, it was in the review process with DOF. DOF has since then approved. It's just basically now working towards the next steps on the property. And any questions?
Are there any questions from council?
Ruby, I just have one, just overall. Thank you for the quick summary. Do you anticipate just looking here forward Q3, 4 as we finish up any shortfall on the revenue side, and then likewise on the expenditure side, anything as we finish up the next half. Because this is good information for me, but again, I don't know how it all trends.
That was the topic that we did, looking at it, and once you start working and putting the presentation together and looking at
Yeah.
numbers, and of course, when I review things, it's all item by item, but it seems like we're trending pretty fairly. I was actually really surprised and didn't know what to expect, especially with our enterprise funds.
Right.
And I was really surprised that they're performing
As projected? Right.
You know, and still, if you look at the expenditures, you can still see staff are still practicing their habits and still being
Right.
somewhat conservative.
Very-
We do have projects in line, but it's just, you know, departments are really working at their budgets and looking at them and being accountable, and they ask questions.
Good.
So that's a big help, but I don't see any big swings here moving forward. The only thing that was a surprise was the Measure D, Fund 215, when we had that shortfall that we had to, something we didn't budget for, where we had to come up and pay more payments. That was maybe the only significant.
It was a
thing that's
recent, but,
happened this month.
but I think your projections are solid because we're not seeing those huge fluctuations, and so that's good. Let's remain conservative in that regard, so thank you. Any other comments from council, questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby.
Next item on the agenda is departmental report. Shirley Bonias, Personnel and Risk Administrator, monthly staffing report.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Shirley Benias, Personnel and Risk Management. On page 111 is the monthly summary. Few positions are open. Parks maintenance worker, conditional offer has been made. He's in the final stages of background. Hope to give his 2-week notice soon and come on board approximately the 17th of February. We're recruiting for a utility worker 2 position. That's going to remain open until October as an in-house promotion. The city manager just signed the requisition to replace water treatment operator 3. And I'm working with the Public Works Director on replacing our streets and utility maintenance supervisor. Just finished a recruitment on January 30th for call-paid firefighters. As you can see by the report, we're down till 9 from 25, so Chief and I will be very busy for the next couple of weeks with testing. Any questions on the report, sir?
Are there any questions from council?
No, I don't have any questions.
One other item, if I may, Mayor?
Excuse me, Shirley, if you don't mind. I noticed that we passed over the planning entry and just want to let council know as an update that we have a vacated admin secretary
Right.
position.
Yes.
We do have on the list of things to do, an effort underway between personnel, planning, and myself to look at options for a different way of structuring
Right.
needs to a planning tech potentially in that area, but that concept will be presented to you at a future date prior to moving forward.
And it's something we have discussed in years past, so that's good.
We had the senior planner about 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
One other item, I'd like to advise the council that a date has been set for the employee appreciation luncheon. The committee has met a couple times, and we haggled and we haggled, and we got March 17th, 2015, 11:30 a.m., and it's going to be at the Lions Center. The executive team, management team will be setting up, taking down, and providing food and serving. And invite council to participate any way they would like. Just please let me know what you would like to do. Mayor, of course, will have you up there for the service awards along with the rest of the council, and they have been ordered. Any questions?
Thank
I had a tentative town hall meeting
We
on that.
did during that day, and I'll explain that. We had talked about the town hall meeting later that evening. It would be a council meeting, so we'll talk about that in just a second. And this is the hours of 11:30 to about 1:30, is that?
Yes, sir. Last year, we placed it 11:30 to 1:30. City manager in the past, and it's approved for this year for the offices to be closed, who can be closed. Of course, dispatch is going to be open and working for the attendance, but I placed on the flyer 11:30 to the end of the event. So it will be done by 1:30.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Are there any other questions from council on this item? No? Thank you for that update. The microphones are a little hot. Are they, Is the volume up? Yeah. So next item on the agenda is
Is that better?
a little bit higher. It was just a little too high. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is departmental reports. Brett Hauser, Brawley Police Department Commander, Spillman Program.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor, city council members.
You're good.
Right, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. I really just need you to kind of change your mindset for a second. Data management and how we, thank you.
Yeah.
Data management and how we look at and how we analyze it, the police department really is broken down into puzzles. Each puzzle piece represents just a piece of information that we have. Anybody's ever been on a crime scene or anything in life where you have pieces to a problem, solutions are found in those pieces. So as time goes on, you get more information, you finally get the picture. It's the bow tie. I had to sit for a long time for that.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice.
Right, so
Go back to it, would you? Just go for it. I'm appreciating it right now, so that's good. All right. That's an old monitor, but it's all right.
So mine looks like.
Right, I have a lot of stuff to cover this evening. I'm trying to make it as concise as possible, but if you have questions, just kind of pop them off. I would greatly appreciate it. If I get to the end, then I'll forget the question once, so I'll try to answer them as we go along. Okay, so at the police department, we break things down in the basic public way of looking at it is we have felonies, misdemeanors, and infractions. What the Spillman system does, and it's a data management system, we call it Spillman, is all the information you put inside of, so when the call shows up, what happened on the call, what the officers did with the call, gets input into that system. And from that system, we can generate these types of reports. And this is an offense time analysis report. So it kind of lets us know what happened when. And this is looking at about a year time frame for these. I mocked up some of these for us for this presentation. So what we would do is we'd go through and take a look and figure out when are our hot times, when are times when more calls are showing up.
Right.
Pretty straightforward. But not only do we correlate the hours, but we also want to correlate the dates. It's important with our patrol and our shifts of how we set these up. And we obviously identify some hot spots. And then inevitably, there's going to be certain areas, for whatever reason, they pop up. We try to take a look at that. So it's the entire picture of those misdemeanor crimes. We do the same thing for felonies. So we get a time frame of this, and most people think felonies are like, in the middle of the night something happens. Well, surprisingly, they actually from 10 to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Once again, we look at the days, take a look at those hot spots, and then any variables that we might have. So. Something else we can do is we do a lot of reviews of information and data that we have and audits for certain calls. So juvenile calls, and this encompasses everything from juveniles being arrested, being contacted, truancy, and all the others.
They're pretty consistent throughout the day, these kids after 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of ends up being that way. So when we take a look at it, there's our hot spots. If you'll see the correlation of time that's there, so right before school up to about 9 o'clock.
Right, lunchtime?
Lunchtime, and then right after school. So this
Stands
is
to
really
reason.
facilitates some conversations with the school districts and other partners that we have, especially our school resource officers. We utilize them a lot. Next is that we break down incidents. This is just an anonymous call we had at 260 West Main. Certain things that we want to know, supervision-wise and accountability, is who showed up on the call. We want to know how long it took them to get there. It's important that we provide prompt service for our citizens. And then what they do and how long did the call take place. Those are really important. All right, this is what we're customarily looking at, and it's no offense to finance, I'm just not a huge spreadsheet kind of guy. So I was thankful with all this information, we can pull reports out, but this is really hard to follow. This is a breakdown, once again, of average incidents of response times per crime. So depending on the crime, how long it took, just a lot of information. Now, the key to all of this is the usefulness of this data. What are we going to do with all this evidence? I mean, I can get lost in this pretty dang fast.
Right.
But what's the usefulness of it? What are we going to do with it? So Spillman came along with this program called Comp Dash or Dashboard. It gets a lot easier to look at. So this is a comparison analysis. If you look up here, we have periods of time that we're comparing. So basically 2013 and 2014. For the purposes of this presentation.
It's a more a visual approach, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it gets difficult to interpret data, and so if you see it, it makes it easier to
It's not
recognize.
as in-depth, but
Right.
it kind of gives you a good snapshot.
Right.
Right, of the prime points. All right, so certain things we're going to be looking at and trending. Over the course of that 2 periods that we compared, we had a huge drop, 31% drop in our burglaries. So things being businesses and residential and vehicles that were broken into, it's a significant drop in that year. Our drugs and narcotics, and this is actually the arrest that we're making. So there's been some recent legislation change in California.
Yeah.
I I attribute to people are less afraid of having drugs on. A lot of felonies got dropped down in misdemeanors, so. Our traffic collisions, property damage and then traffic collisions with injuries, both down 9%, which is really encouraging, so. And then our thefts, and these are normally our bigger numbers. Property crimes are usually huge with the police departments or communities, but a 20% drop, so it's impressive. All right, some of the things that we do is we pull back all this information, and we'll take a look at it and figure out, okay, now we have this, we know when they called us, what are we gonna do with this information? So I'll take a look at theft, I'll see the peak times of that, take a look at burglary, I'll see the peak times of that, and if you see the time of day that they're calling, it's about between 7 and 9 o'clock for both those crimes. So when are these thefts taking place? Anyone?
I can't see the figures out there that,
I apologize.
We can't see
So
time.
if everybody's calling in about 7
9.
to 9 o'clock and they're saying, hey, somebody stole my stuff, somebody broke in my car, somebody
right,
broke
so
into
it
my
happened at
business.
some other point over here,
Exactly,
right?
it's taking
Yeah.
place during the early morning hours. So
Right.
it's important as a police department, we know that. We can analyze that and say, hey, justifiably, it's important we get out and reach the people that are victims, but it's really important to get out and reach the criminals that are out there. So we would take this to our patrol teams who would go out and actively kind of more aggressively hit those early morning hours. So all the folks that are out there.
And you have large numbers where you can compare, and so it makes it easier to track. Unlike, and I hate to bring it up, but, like murders that we've had recently, where they seem to be more acts of violence that were directed at certain people, and we're not having dozens of those happen, so it's harder to really correlate that to anything else but just random acts of violence, right? I mean,
But, well, sometimes, so
Yeah.
we can make connections to a lot of different things.
Right.
And I pulled these property crimes because they're bigger numbers.
sure, and that makes it easier to track and trend, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So not only during the daytime it's important, like what hours are taking place, but what part of the day is it happening? I mean, we have to schedule people to come in. We can't just have them come in one day at a time, or 2 days split by 3 and stuff. So we take a look at, so I would go through and analyze this and say, okay, I've got thefts happening in the city. Kind of a lower point of the week is Wednesdays. People just aren't as reporting on Wednesdays. So, but I'm seeing a huge uptick on Mondays and Tuesdays, Tuesdays being the highest. So when is this taking place? Monday, Tuesdays are the highest, probably over the weekend. That's when businesses are being broken into, or residential thefts are taking place.
Right, so that's when it's reported, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. So it's important for us to know that on where to put resources. Traffic citations, although it sounds somewhat boring, it's not. I mean, it's the safety of motoring public. So traffic citations, we really pushed enforcement this last year. You can see the uptick. The one in blue on your left there is the one from last year, 2013, represented by 2014 is the yellow. So we were a lot more active in reaching drivers.
It's a positive way to put it.
And this is the direct result of that, is that we had a 4% drop in accident reports. That's significant.
So there's a correlation there, yeah.
Exactly. And it's not all citations, sometimes it's just education and warning.
Right.
But for whatever reason, those continue to drop down. Now, we look at traffic collisions as well. Sadly, we had some unfortunate events in 2014, we lost some folks. But our traffic, the actual just property damage, your fender benders, those are going down. So, and I hope this trend continues. So this is just a tool we use, a little snapshot within Spillman. Kind of gives me an idea based on beats. Our city's broken into 4 beats. On the top left there you'll see beat 1. It's a busy place, a lot of incidents taking place. And that's not just public contacting us, that's us arresting folks and making contacts, but a lot's going on. This is the bragging box here on the bottom left. I X'd out the officers' names just because it changes all the time. But this is how active our officers are. And during those years, if you can tell, the last little column, there's between 400 and 500 reports. And each one of those columns, or each one of those horizontals, represents one officer. So they are very, very busy, very productive folks. We have a great group. On the right-hand side is our classifications, Part 1, Part 2, and quality of life. These are kind of dictated. Our Part 1s are what we report to the FBI in our monthly and then annual UCR reports. So it's our major felonies. Part 2 has some felonies, but mostly misdemeanors. So if I were to scan this in my office, I'd take a look and go, hey, green is good, but I'm seeing a red here. I'm going to go find out why. So I'll pop over and take a look at Part 2 incidents, and I'll see just kind of the high point there is, okay, what is that? That's trespassing. okay, why do we have an uptick in trespassing? And is it that big of a problem? So I'll take a look at the trending of it, and I'll say, okay, when are these happening? And this sadly looks, but it's relatively flat. There's a few little spikes kind of towards the morning, but it's relatively flat. So another tool I'll use, I'll just compare these changes. So I'm going through and looking at trespassing. It's 11%. It's not a huge amount. I mean, we want to address it. But one that's glaring to me is truancy. 53% increase. There was a great study out of the city of Indio. The police department hooked up with the University of California and did a study of truancy and direct enforcement on truancy. And by addressing their truancy issues, their residential daytime burglaries dropped by 60%. So it kind of sticks out to me.
That's what they're doing.
Kind of glaring, they're out of school.
So I look at the truancy, 53% increase. That's troublesome. So when's this taking place? Wednesday? So I don't know if it's, by Monday, Tuesday.
I believe it.
By Wednesday, they're done.
Yeah, I believe it. Unfortunately, it's a lot of young people that are out there. I had a property in El Centro last week that was broken into twice. It'd been rehabbed, and they broke in, and they had a big old bong, and they'd been smoking weed in there, and they vandalized it, and we boarded it up, cleaned it up, painted over the graffiti. They came back next day, same thing. They broke the window this time. So it's just, they're out there doing that. It's unfortunate, but you just got to be on top of it.
No,
So.
but if your local police department knew that,
And they do. I reported it. Normally I wouldn't. I just repair it. But this time, the second time, I was like, I have to say something, just because otherwise you won't know about it. So we need to encourage that as well. Yeah.
and these are all data points that we gather, so we can put them in this and then allocate where we need to during the daytime. So what we do is, this is a mapping program that actually pulls it up, and the black boxes that you see represent those two different periods of time, so P1 and P2. The stars represent the schools, so we have the high school, Barbara Worth, and Desert Valley. These are the truancy cases that we've dealt with. Now surprisingly, truancy, they're not in school. This might encompass a few juvenile offenses, but they don't take off, they don't go very far. So what I would end up doing, and thankfully we have our school resource officer grant going, is I contact my SROs and working with their school district as well. I'd let them know, hey, these are the areas of interest you might want to look at. There's North Third, it's up by the skate park. There's the convenience store where they're hanging out. We have some troubled properties there on A Street. These are areas that you want to look at and focus on. We also relay this information to our patrol teams. So hopefully we get more of those black squares and less of the other crimes other places. Other things that we just track in general is just quality of life stuff. Our 5150s on mental health. For several years, we saw an increase, substantial double-digit increases of 5150 calls. They've kind of flattened out, and this year, in comparison, we've had about a 2% drop, almost 3% drop on those. But animal calls have increased by 8.5%. Doesn't sound like a huge percent, but it's a significant 269, 292. So I don't know if people are there's been a lot of articles in the paper on animal, Hill Valley Humane Society.
right.
I don't know if people are becoming more aware, but they're calling us more, or the animal control officer. So customarily, I just walk you through a quick briefing. One of our sergeants would sit down with the patrol team at the beginning and end of every shift, and we take a look at these hot spots, crimes against persons, property crimes, traffic collisions, and trespassing, just for an example. And we take a look and we throw them into our mapping program. And as you can see, the red squares represent those crimes against persons, the blue against property, and the black with traffic. So if I'm a patrol sergeant, do I have a huge issue with traffic collisions? Not really. We've had a few. It's important to have traffic presence out there, but it's not a huge issue. But I do have some major concerns when it comes to property and people. Especially so, rather than just run all towards property and let's stop property crime, we'll try to run all towards people, and by chance we end up catching some suspects. We want to diversify our efforts, and I'm going to have my patrol team take a look at some of these special places. Okay, so I would let my guys know, hey, we need to cover this on West Main, we need to cover this over by Cesar Chavez and B, wherever it may be. So, and that would be just B1, those are real-time past couple days. Here's B3. Far fewer calls, but we still want to have our presence there. That may be a contributing factor why we don't have a lot of calls there. But I still want my officers in that area. We've had 3 crimes against persons in that area. So it's important we stay diversified in our presence. All right, closing it up, and I know you guys are all aware, we have our MDCs, our mobile data computers inside of our cars. Awesome resource to have out in the field. I mean, we do have our radios. Communication is open 24/7.
And that was from a few years ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some substantial upgrades to this. In fact, we bought all brand-new units last year through one of our federal grants.
Right, and that's what I'm referring to, so.
So real-time updates for the officers, it's really nice to have. From this, they can go through and do searches of information that they get out on scene in a second. And this happens quite often. They go out and make a traffic stop for a speeding violation. Driver and occupant, passenger stories don't match up. They pull them all out of the car. Hey, can we search your car? They give consent. As the officer's going through it, they find a VCR or DVD player. They can input whatever information they can get. That doesn't have to be complete. It might be a serial number. It might be a partial serial number. And by having that access in the field, they can recover that stolen property. It might have been stolen a month ago in a residential burglary. So it's nice for the guys to be able to have that. And then our recent upgrade addition, now it's live, is our HD dash cameras, which is with our audio. These are a great resource, as you can tell in recent times. It's important to get what you can on tape. There's just 3 split scenes that I grabbed from, so.
Thank you.
All right. If you guys have any questions, anything, I know it was a lot of information really fast. I apologize, but I saw the hour.
That's okay.
Good information.
Any other comments from council, questions from council on this item? Thank you, Commander.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
Brett.
you.
Appreciate the information.
You scared me sometimes.
Next, before we move forward on the next item, there is Supervisor Kelly. Would you like to address us or address the public?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity. Ryan Kelly, Supervisor District 4. I want to formally invite all of you for the Sayers County. I appreciate the assistance of the city and helping organize that. It'll be 6 o'clock at the Elks Lodge, and it should be a very good event with new information related to the activities. Some activities that took place today, as Mr. Couch probably has already informed you.
No,
No?
I
Not
haven't had
yet.
my report yet. Oh, go
Well, I'll
ahead.
let him tell you.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, there was a solar project that was approved today. It was the Irish project, about 1,500 acres. That was the last one that was in the queue to be approved in the county. There are no other pending solar projects at this time. Before the discussion ended, we've asked staff to bring a moratorium back to the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday until May 1st, 2015. No other projects will be considered. So this discussion will be next Tuesday, if you are inclined to attend. Also, the county today executed an agreement with the Imperial Irrigation District in settlement of the
Lawsuit.
USA litigation. And we believe it is available to municipalities and the other special districts to review. The terms are that within the QSA, the IID and the county will continue to seek the state's obligation for the mitigation and restoration of the salton sea together with future litigation. Also protect the health and safety of the residents of Imperial County. The 2 main goals of the county and their litigation were to protect the environment, to have an air plan that addressed air mitigation, and also to protect the property owners, the ratepayers, and the citizens of Imperial County from having to pay for the water transfer of the QSA. And that is still our goal, and we believe that we're on the right path together.
Right, that's important. I mean, that's been in motion too for a couple of years, so that's, the relationship's mended, so we're happy to see that. No, we look forward to your presentation of the state of the county.
We'll be there.
Be there to support you for sure. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a summary, record summary of building permits. Is there any questions from council on this item?
None?
No?
no.
Then it's in our backup material we've reviewed. We'll move on. Next item is city council member reports, and there's actually an item here.
Mayor Nava, if you wouldn't mind pushing that to the city, the city manager report. That's where it is intended to be.
And we will push that forward to the city manager's report. So I would start with the council member Noriega. Your report, please.
Went to the NOCA meeting. We had the gentleman there who's doing our park out at, behind Oakley School, Mrs. Giroux? No.
Alice, your report. Yes.
Yes, thank you. And anyway, he brought a bunch of pictures, beautiful pictures of the animals that are going to be set up and how the children have gotten together and done a lot of the learning how to put rocks together, these beautiful rocks. And so everybody was pretty amazed. And they go, where's this park at? It's funny how we live in Brawley and nobody knows where the park behind Oakley is. But anyway, so I described it and where it was. And I said, there used to be what they call the White House over there. I said, but most everybody was pretty young there, so they don't remember that. But anyway, so I explained to them, what we're going to do about the water splash and everything. So they were very excited to have that over there. Also, I went, not on the bike run itself, but I did stay at the American Legion and helped out gathering some of the food and stuff for the bike riders. They do this bike run and they collect money. They give out gifts and they sell tickets for raffles and stuff. But this money goes back into our cities for our children here. These bikers have given a lot, and they were really happy to see a city council person there. Well, I wasn't there to begin with, it wasn't to be part of the bike run, but I was asked to help, and then my son is a biker now, so God help us all. He has become a big biker. Anyway, so all these people that were there was people from all over, and it was really nice to see everybody getting along. And there was no fights. We had music. We had lots of food. You paid $10 to be part of that, and that gave you all the food you wanted to eat, all the drinks you wanted to drink. So it was really nice. And, I'm just drinking water all the time. And I think, I said, excuse me, I think I'll go to the bathroom, as you can tell. I go to the restroom more than the ones that are drinking beer. But anyway, it was really nice. They complimented us that the city is at least, being there and supporting them. So I just wanted to share that with the rest of the city council. And I did say if next time for them to send a personal invitation so we can all go.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for that report. Councilmember Couchman.
Yes, I attended the overall Economic Development Commission meeting related to a retail sales study that they're doing, and we have another meeting scheduled for next week, where they were going to, I think it's next week. They were going to schedule it this week. I think they've decided to schedule it for next week, so I'm anticipating going to that meeting. I also went to the Chamber Board meeting. We had a lot of good discussion there related to sidewalk sales and other issues, as you're well aware. The Chamber's very active, and they have a good group, and they go over their mixed group of business people within Brawley and also outside of Brawley, and they do, I think, a good job of discussing the issues. I try to update them on the city monthly and see where we're going with that, and so I think they appreciate that, and it's good that we have communication between the groups. I attended the United Way fundraiser night at the races the other day. That was a nice event. Not a lot of attendance, but it's just a fun kind of event to go to, and I did appreciate that. And it was a nice event, fundraising for the United Way. I also attended the Board of Supervisors meeting this morning, not in the capacity of the city of Brawley, but rather in the capacity of 8 Minute Energy. They did approve a project that we're working on in the Calexico area, and that'll be the last one. If this next week's action is a moratorium on solar. I guess our concern from a solar standpoint is a moratorium sounds bad. I mean, that's basically, it has a negative kind of connotation to it. So I think we're a little concerned about future development. I think the county's concerned about future development on agricultural land, but I'm also concerned about, and not so much that we're looking at projects, but future development on like the west side of of the county in government, either governmental land that's desert or private property that's not part of the irrigated or not part of the growing a crop or irrigated area of the valley. I'm concerned about the ability to put in those types of projects, and not necessarily from our viewpoint, but from the viewpoint of a developer trying to go through the process of getting that done. So we'll see where that goes, and I think, the county has to respond to both ag and to renewable, and so they're kind of between a rock and a hard place in some ways there. I wanted to bring up just one last thing. Several longtime residents of Brawley have passed away. I've been to several different funerals. I think some of you have also. Juanita Merrill, Chuck Pate, and Desmond Smith. They've all passed away from Brawley. Many of us knew them as children, and I think we lose a lot of history that way, and a lot of our pioneers and some of the people that have been here since the 20s and 30s and even before that are gradually fading away, our high school teachers and that type of thing. So. Mr. Kinder, Joe Kinder,
Mr. Romero.
Mr. Romero, and some of those people that I know, and some of those people that don't. But I just bring it up that we're losing a lot of the old guard, and suddenly I'm becoming the old guard, and I'm getting a little concerned about that. However, I'm still moving forward as I do every day. No. So, but those are some things that I was wanted to bring up. I respected those people in my younger years, and some of them were educators, and some of them were people that were very friendly and very responsive to a person needing guidance and other things that went on. So I just wanted to bring that up. Other than that, I see the city staff out there working all the time. I see the police department out there very active and very much out there. And Public Works, the water breaks, the 15 or 20 water breaks that we've had, I see them out there and active on that. And I think I want them to continue that effort. I know the library is doing well. I know other things, the parks are doing well. And this is a busy time, and I understand that. And I think we're all under a lot of pressure to get the job done. So I appreciate that, and that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Couchman.
You up for election?
No.
You know what's funny?
But I'm always running.
You know what's funny? I was thinking the same.
But I'm always running.
I'm just messing.
From something or away from something.
I'm just
Funny
messing.
that you said that. Councilman.
We're up for election, sound like you.
It's so funny you said that because I was thinking.
That's just bad.
Councilmember Campbell.
None of these people are voting for me.
I attended the ICTC meeting, and I want to thank Mr. Kelly and Mr. Nava that represents that board for appointing me to the Transportation Committee up at SCAG, and I'll be flying out tomorrow evening at 3 o'clock to attend the monthly meeting up in LA, and I really look forward to that. I enjoy those meetings, and as Mr. Kaufman said, we have a staff that works very hard and do a lot of work out there. I noticed some of those guys in water and mud last week up to their waistline, a lot of them, with some of these water breaks and stuff. And I appreciate the fact that in our budget process, we have a lot of projects going on that's going to address some of those problems. So that'll be helping staff. Other than that, things have been pretty quiet. And I just ask that God continue to bless you guys and your families, and let's stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Mayor Pro Tem Wharton.
Mr. Mayor, I attended the El Centro State of the City address. Also, I'm probably going to title this wrong, but IVEDC was a nice industry cluster presentation and evening with industry leaders that were down visiting here in the Valley, I believe, for a day and a half or so. But it was a great event. Thank you for the invitation, actually. And finally, also attended the California League of Cities dinner, which was for our council members attended. And that's all I have.
Thank you for that update. I wanted to share some information with you. I had the district director for Caltrans, Lori Berman, call me the other day with respect to the incidents at Hoveley and 111. And so they're going to be addressing those items, and she committed to getting back to me on a plan that they have in place and that they're working on. So I thought that was very important and significant, since she represents District 11, and it's San Diego County and Imperial County. So for the district director to reach out to us and let us know that they obviously care about what's happening in that area, I think was very important. Also attended the ICTC Commission meeting, and congratulations on your appointment. League dinner was a nice event as well. We had a large turnout here in Brawley, and I thought it was a nice kickoff to the start of the year. So also attended the call center, I attended a luncheon with IVDC for the call center folks that came down from other parts of the country, in fact, other parts of the world. And we also had a networking mixer the night before in El Centro where we spoke to them, and the message that we focused on was the unity within the valley, and I believe they got that message loud and clear. So I hope it leads to some significant employment opportunities out here in our valley. State of the City of El Centro, I attended that as well, and it was well attended, and they had some good plans for the City of El Centro, and as our regional partners, I think they'll be successful. I did want to mention two things to you. As council, we talked about a paint out day, beautification day in the city of Brawley, and so I reached out to Imperial Stores. They're a local operator here in Brawley. I reached out to them, and we were able to work with them in conjunction with what they're planning through the month of March and April to have an opportunity for the residents of Brawley and really the Imperial County to receive significant discounts on paint and paint supplies during those months. And so I had the city manager follow up with the leadership at Imperial Stores to iron out some of those details, but it's really a great opportunity to buy paint and paint supplies at the lowest prices of the year. So they're going to offer like higher quality paint during 1 month, and then in April sort of a mid-grade paint for improvements to buildings or fences or whatever it is that you want to do. Helps keep money in the city of Brawley, but it also provides people an opportunity to purchase their items here at a discounted price. So they're going to have a full spread of items that they're going to offer, and we're excited about working with them. And maybe, Rosanna, during your report, you can update us a little bit more on what that is what's taking place with respect to that. But I'm excited about it because I think it's going to benefit everyone out here. A lot of what we see is aesthetic, so when somebody can paint a building and make it look fresh and nice and clean and new, it's in my opinion, I think, a huge improvement. So we can work together to push that forward. I'm excited to do that. The other item is the town hall meeting that we discussed at our last meeting. I've moved forward with that item. The one comment that Councilmember Couchman shared, and it may have been shared by other council members, was with respect to the date. And I believe you're right in that one thing we didn't consider was other entities that we're inviting may not be able to meet that day. So it turns out that some may not be able to accommodate the 17th. So I proposed March 19th. That's a Thursday at the same time. So we would just move our meeting from the 17th to the 19th. And it would be a Thursday, but did get confirmation from, and I'm going to get it again, from Supervisor Kelly. He would participate, from Stephen Benson, the chairman of IID, and we're looking for opportunities back from the assembly member and from other agencies. So, yeah. So that's where we're at this point, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And that's City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Nava. Included in your backup is a snapshot of an item that we broached as a subject in the budget process for this fiscal year. And as you may recall, one of the concepts that was presented was the potential for approaching various institutional stakeholders that are users of the Lions Center pool to participate in offset of some of the costs of operating the pool year-round. We have begun those conversations with 3 institutional entities. They are described as Brawley Union High School, Brawley Elementary School District, and a private entity that uses our pool year-round, which is Imperial Valley Desert Aquatics. Beginning in January, our project approach is to invite the participation of these parties to contribute to a $500 per month offset. Imperial Valley Desert Aquatics will begin to pay every month of the year beginning in January. Brawley Union High School and Brawley Elementary School District are proposed to only contribute during the months where we have peak costs associated with heating our pool. So Brawley Union High School utilizes our pool for 4 months out of the 12, where we have increased costs as it pertains to heating the pool. Brawley Elementary School District uses it for 1 month out of the entire 12 months that are associated with peak costs. So all three of these entities are being approached to participate at the $500 per month level. At the request of one of the superintendents, it was asked that I provide a complete picture of total costs incurred to operate our pool, less staffing. And his hope, this was Superintendent Garcia, was for me to provide him with a basis for a contribution. He inquired whether the city is going to pursue a rate study. I indicated to him at this time that was not the intent. The intent was simply to find a method, a reasonable method for cost sharing, and that such an approach would likely be a lot more costly than $500 per month. I did thank him, though, for the suggestion to put together the costs, which we have actually provided him with all of our journal entries for a full calendar year, so that we can show him and anyone else that's interested what it costs to operate our pool year-round. So in your backup is a snapshot what that summary information is, and the short of it is, taking out staffing entirely as a variable, what we spend to have our pool in place year-round is approximately $63,000 a year, a monthly average of $5,278, or a daily average of $173.52. We're certain that by providing these numbers, it helps to show our neighboring entities what it takes to keep this wonderful community resource in place. I have continued to value the relationship with the school districts. We actually sent an invoice to Imperial Valley Desert Aquatics. They will commence with payment for January and moving forward. The other two public entities, however, have requested that material be presented to them in a format that goes to their board meetings. So I want to brief you before those items end up on a future agenda. The backup will be to capture the full year of operational costs and invite participation in a one-year arrangement. This item will come back to you in the next budget process to consider once again for future years. But more than anything, I wanted to give you a heads up that it will be in public meetings very soon. Month of February or March is when it's expected.
Has that information been shared with them yet, or
Yes.
not? It has, okay.
Yes, at the staff level, not with the, I'm not sure if the superintendents
Right.
have distributed it
Okay,
to their
but-
reports yet.
But the superintendent that requested it has seen it.
Yes.
Was there any comment from them?
No, very helpful. Thank you for, giving us the full picture of
Sure.
what it costs to operate.
It is
So-
expensive. I mean, even somebody's pool at their home is expensive to maintain. When
Yes.
you're heating it, it's very expensive.
So this will likely take the form of a letter of understanding or an MOU, where the city and the school district will enter into an arrangement, and will lay out the costs and rationale for the approach. And if you have any questions, those are always welcome. Wanted to let you know that Housing and Community Development, we're once again in the city of Brawley. Today, they hosted a training at the Emergency Operations Center. We had a lot of valley-wide participation. We had an opportunity to have lunch at Inferno. The loan representatives that were present were part of the approval process at the state level, so they were excited to see Inferno up and running. Still very interested in the Brawley Theater, and when is the Brawley Theater going to submit a project, request for project support? I explained to them where they were in the process and the likelihood, because their hope is to use all resources necessary before invoking prevailing wage, that we may end up being an applicant with them to HCD for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is at the very tail end and does not involve all those complicating circumstances of construction. So it was great to see that they're interested in supporting a future project in the downtown. Their minds remain very open to looking at options for us. Wanted to give you a heads up that February 12th, the day of our State of the County address here in Brawley, we will also have a meeting in the Imperial Valley Housing Authority, and at that meeting, there will be an item considered that involves a property within the city of Brawley. It is an R3 project, multifamily project that aims to be located immediately south of Witter School. There is a arrangement that involves the housing authority and this private party in a joint approach to acquire the land and create a competitive advantage for gaining the benefit of tax credits. I have heard from our council representative, which is Mr. Campbell, that he would like to attend that meeting on behalf of the city, and I'm waiting on the agenda to come forward. Be happy to share it with everyone. What's really interesting about the party that's partnering with the housing authority is that they're undertaking this project as well as another senior age-restricted project. They aim to site south of Family Dollar on Eastern Avenue. So that is a future zone change item that would come to the council. And they are also interested in the potential relocation, redevelopment, reimagining of the Brawley Mobile Home Park. And this is probably the most positive dialogue we've had in the last several years, including, I think, some very fruitful contact with the property owner. So the representative will be in town next week in advance of the Housing Authority meeting. They have asked whether I would be open to meeting with the property owner along with the Housing Authority, and I hope to have some information to share with you in the not-so-distant future about that property and the opportunity to improve housing conditions for the residents there.
And that's catty corner to the property that's being proposed to be constructed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Fronts on Brawley Avenue, at the corner of where Woos Market used to be.
Right.
Yes. Have a lot of items coming forward to you at the next council meeting. Just want to give you a heads up. We've got water and sewer rate study presentation, which is likely to take a significant portion of the meeting. Also looking for an action item to be considered by the council that involves the Housing Authority project and development impact fees. We're in the process of preparing a staff report to you regarding impact fees applicable to that project. We'll also be coming to you with another request that involves Florentine Estates and timing associated with their payment of fees. A lot of items coming forward, and I think you'll continue to see heavy push in all the meetings because we're lining up our work plans for the year on what items were delivered first half and what commitments we've made to the council to deliver in the second half, and trying our very best to make the most of the 5 months that remain in our fiscal year. So there's a lot going on in the city, and certainly with all of staff behind projects, we'll push through as much as we possibly can.
Anything on Wildcat Road? I've been asked several times.
We currently have an item that the developer has submitted for council consideration. It is primarily oriented towards the timing of improvements involving Wildcat in addition to a number of other features in that subdivision. My intent is to bring that item to the council for direction before agreements are prepared, and that would theoretically be an item actually on the next council agenda.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm sorry to take so much time. Just a couple more items. The Brawley Beautiful Initiative is this effort being undertaken, both an invitation to commercial property owners and residential property owners. There's a couple dimensions to it, including specific invitations to step forward, voluntary invitations to step forward on Main Street. A number of businesses have agreed, property owners have agreed to join us in this undertaking, which is really exciting. Our hook was we would try our very best to make below market rate paint available to their efforts, and because of the timing being so wonderful with Imperial Stores, we're going to have an opportunity to package it in that fashion. As the mayor mentioned, there is a lot of Ivy Press and Adelante Valle material that will be running in this branding of Brawley Beautiful and beautifying and refreshing properties within our city limits.
And that is actually being paid for by Imperial Stores, so they're running their promotion.
Nice,
Yeah.
okay.
They agreed to let us piggyback, and we are working out the details of an insert that would go into our utility bills for all customers and potentially March and April, depending on what other items are in the mix, where we would highlight, this is the time of year when we have our Allied or Republic Services cleanup, community cleanup opportunities. So we're looking at ways to package
Nice.
community cleanup, bulk pickup, all those things that are positives and available at no cost to residents, along with this pricing opportunity at Imperial Stores. So looking forward to that, and hopefully having some results that we can all be proud of. Last item is an item that I distributed via email late last week, and I do apologize for the lateness of the item. It came after the agenda posted, and this has to do with the essential air service to Imperial County. This is a federally funded effort that is up for renewal once again, and from what I understand from the mayor of El Centro, who in her capacity with Southern California Association of Governments solicited an analysis by SCAG of various options that are before the U.S. Department of Transportation. So I know I can't have action tonight, but I'm certainly welcoming of direction. The request that came forward to Brawley and to neighboring jurisdictions is that the cities and county take a position and provide a letter of support for essential air service continuing to be a benefit available to local residents. If the city wishes to take a position on the specific provider, that's certainly an option. Another alternative would be to simply emphasize the importance of essential air service to accessibility.
I think that would be the more important message that we need the service out here. We're not in a position to pick a provider, you know, because there are pros and cons, and we saw the backup material. There are pros and cons to Seaport and to another provider operating as United. So there's certainly pros and cons, but we need the service out here.
We need something.
Yeah.
So would the council be in support of a preparation of a letter? I could draft it for the mayor's signature. We do need to submit it before February 13th. So it's right around the corner. If there's no concerns about doing that, happy to prepare that.
Just a general letter of support of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know flying out of Imperial, using Seaport, they fly into Burbank, just take the Metro right downtown LA, and you're right there. I mean, it's great.
Okay, happy to do that. And
Any comments, Councilmember Ward?
Yeah, again, I haven't had a lot of time to look at this, but the only thing I just wanted to share, and I agree, I think Seaport, first off, being a new entrant to our market, has done obviously a great job. I think one of the keys is obviously having a local hire and understanding, again, the valley as a consumer, and we're travelers in business and personal travel. But as someone that travels also myself, just consideration coming from aviation industry, gets in more of the technical aspects, single engine versus twin engine, not something that everyone wants to talk about. Does it mean single engine's unsafe? No. Single engine aircraft operate safely all around the world every day. We operate them even in my own business. We have single engine aircraft. Given the choice, I mean, I think intuitively most people would think that, two's better than one. And when you are in weather, those are just things from consideration. So looking at aircraft type and capacity and some of those things might be a factor. But then there's many other aspects. That's just one aspect. So certainly not saying one is safer than the other. I think if anything, at the end of the day, those decisions are made on a mission-by-mission, flight-by-flight basis by competent pilots at all levels. So that would just be my 2 cents. Again, my understanding is that United Express, or their previous SkyWest provider, there were were there issues with subsidy or were there issues with usage, and they voluntarily pulled out? I'm not aware of that. I don't know what the background or what the discussion is, but why they left to begin with, or they underwent the last process?
Related to both. It was subsidized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just some understanding some of those issues. So again, from a pro-con, I don't want to bring in another, where United Express or someone like that comes in and once again, potentially leaves the valley without a service. So
Right.
a lot to be said for that.
But, if we can agree to just have a letter of support, supporting a service that'll,
Service.
right. So, is that,
That's all I have.
thank you. Treasurer's report, anything? Thank you. City Attorney's report?
Tangerine Gardens, we filed a default judgment package. It's on the judge's desk, I assume, and as soon as I get that, then we will undertake to serve the injunction on the company. J Street, we've made a motion or a petition for instructions asking the judge to direct the receiver to sell the property. And I think that is set for March 2nd, if I remember correctly. That was as soon as I could put it after giving the required notice. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but those are the two big ones.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Reminder of the Hidalgo Society installation of officers this week.
we got
Your
I think
tickets are in.
There was some confusion on the date, I
Yes,
believe,
uh-huh.
yes, so it is this
It is
Friday?
Friday, yes,
It is this
Friday.
Friday.
There's a mistake on the tickets. They have February the 8th.
2019? No, I'm kidding. It was-
2019.
We didn't get a table, did we? Alma?
Yes.
We did.
got a ticket.
We did. All right, we're going to go into closed session, but I want to thank everybody for their participation and involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I need to use.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Teddy says.
I need to use.